Welcome to the United Constitutional Patriots show. We're having a special show right now because we are on the border. Like I said, Johnny's on the border, and they are watching the border right now, and I am going to go live to the border with Johnny. So now I will turn the mic over to Johnny. So here's Johnny.
Hello and welcome to the special broadcast for the United Constitutional Patriots, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the border, have been on the border. We have been picking up illegals right and left in coalition with the Border Patrol. This last week we picked approximately 2,000 people up, and we have a very special guest sitting next to me here. And Gavin, I'll let you introduce yourself and some of your background and what we're doing and what you're doing, and you're going to let them know what's going on.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so this is Dr. Gavin Clarkson from Las Cruces, New Mexico. I was President Trump's Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy and Economic Development in the Department of Interior. And for those of you know, the Bureau of Land Management is inside the Department of Interior, and that controls about 2/3 of the land here in New Mexico. So every time they talk about federal land, most of those issues are always dealt with in the Department of Interior. My primary focus was Indian Affairs. I was the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy and Economic Development in Indian Affairs, and we do have 3 tribes on the U.S.-Mexico border. You got the Tohono O'odham over in Arizona, and then in Texas you got the Tiguas and the Kickapoos. But since I left the administration to run for Congress because I was afraid that we had an open seat that was going to flip and that would end up electing Speaker Pelosi, and unfortunately, I didn't win the primary, and sure enough, a vote for my primary opponent in June was a vote for Pelosi in January. But I ended up running for Secretary of State. The party asked me to run, and I ended up doing well enough in the 2nd congressional district that had I been our congressional nominee, I'd be Congressman Clarkson sitting here rather than just plain old Gavin. But that's all right. But anyway, I've been doing a lot of I'm a school teacher by training, and so I've been doing a lot of educational videos and talking to people about the border, and specifically got involved. If you remember back in December, Antelope Wells is the most remote southern border port of entry we have. It's literally out in the middle of nowhere. Its permanent population is 1 person. He works for DHS there at the port of entry. The water is toxic. It's infected with Legionella bacteria naturally. So literally you drink the water there, you die. It is the most inhospitable place you can imagine, and is the last place you would want to be dragging children across. Yet we have, since October, had a massive onslaught of large mini caravans bringing small children across the border. In this case, in December, little Jacqueline Kyle Makin died because of the perilous journey across the Sonoran Desert. And so I started doing some videos showing some people about the problems with Antelope Wells. We're now having migrant mini caravans of 200, 300 people crossing twice a week. And the system is totally overloaded. I was at the El Paso rally with Anthony, and I met the guy who drives the bus from Lawrenceburg to El Paso. I mean, he's a monster-sized Uber driver for DHS, because these people show up. First thing they want is free medical care, so they take them to the hospital. And the thing is, what most people don't realize, it's a felony to present yourself at the border and lie. 18 U.S.C. 1001 says it's a felony to make a knowingly false statement to a federal official. So all these people showing up saying they're claiming asylum, they're lying, most of them. Well, people say, how do you know? Well, the El Paso sector's rate for credible fear claims in the court hearing, only about 4.3% of those succeed. That means 95.7% of them are failing to meet the credible fear standard, and that's if they ever bother to show up. Because right now, the delay between being apprehended at the border and your court date is about 2.5 years. And so I did another video. And by the way, if your listeners want to follow me on Facebook, it's at Gavin Clarkson, GavinClarkson. You can also follow me on Twitter at Dr. Gavin Clarkson, DrGavinClarkson. But I posted another video where you're at right just over the mountain here at Monument 1. Every day, sometime between noon and 2, you'll have a plane load of Brazilians flying into Ciudad Juarez. And they come across the border. They've got their carry-on luggage in one hand. They've got their small child in the other. They present themselves at the border and they announce asilo, which is asylum in both Spanish and Portuguese. And they get a court date 2.5 years from now. They get bussed over to Santa Teresa, then bussed back to Annunciation House in El Paso, and then they get a plane ticket to Boston, or because there's a large Brazilian community there. So basically, what the cartel refers to DHS and CBP, their name for those guys and those brave men and women, they refer to them as logistics, because all the cartel has to do is get them 1 inch in the United States, and the U.S. taxpayer picks up the rest of the trip. So we're actually making the cartel more profitable. It used to be that the coyotes and the drug smugglers and the guias had to actually get them all the way to their end destination. They now figured out, hey, you drag a small child with you, and poof, you got it made. And people say, well, you're being awfully harsh on this father who lost his daughter. And I my heart breaks for any parent who loses the child. But at the same point, if this had been a U.S. citizen and he had left his small child in the back of a car while he was stealing food for his family, we would still be prosecuting him for felony murder because a child dies in the commission of a crime. And so, but all of a sudden we make this person a martyr and a hero and saying, oh, gee, it's the evil people of DHS and CBP and ICE. When in fact, no, it is an irresponsible parent, and a coyote, because the thing is, you think about it, what was he fleeing? If he was fleeing something really that bad, why did he leave his wife and 3 or 4 younger children? One of them was an infant in diapers back home in Guatemala. If he was fleeing oppression, why leave the most vulnerable ones back home? He was offered asylum in Mexico. And asylum law says, that you're supposed to claim asylum in the first safe country. And Mexico offered them asylum, and they turned it down. So why is this? Well, the answer comes when the liberal newspapers go down and interview the families because they're trying to make hay out of this tragedy. And they say, well, why was he going to the U.S.? Oh, they're going to work. And again, I do not fault parents wanting to provide a better life for their children. But you don't do it through fraud. You don't do it by endangering your child on a 2,000-mile journey across the Sonoran Desert. I've worked with people who've done agricultural visas. They legally follow the process. They come here. They work for several months. They go home and live like kings. I mean, that is a guest worker program or a migrant worker program is a much better foreign aid policy than sending millions of dollars to tin pot dictators that will squander it in a corrupt system. If you actually send money back to Central America using a guest worker program, and maybe you do it to where they're only here for 12 months, and then they got to leave the country for 3 months or something like that. So they're not moving here to live; they're coming here to work. But you also maybe you hold back some portion of the money they earn here until they actually check in with a consulate back in their home country. But that's a freedom-based labor system. And again, I'm not anti-immigrant in the slightest. As I tell people. I live in Las Cruces. It's a majority Hispanic community. The vast majority are children or grandchildren of legal immigrants. My wife is a legal immigrant. She crossed the border of Mexico. She got a visa. She got a work permit. It took her 14 years to become a citizen because she followed the legal process every step of the way. She's a bigger border hawk than I am. She has absolutely zero interest in allowing people to cheat the system. Yeah, and the thing, and I get, so I am very pro-immigrant. I'm in love with an immigrant. I married an immigrant. And, and if they doubt me, I say, aunque parece como un gringo, yo puedo hablar suficiente español para vivir aquí. Y también casi todos de mis compañeros son hijos y nietos de inmigrantes legales. Which, for those of your audience that don't speak Spanish, again, most of the people I work with are either the children or grandchildren of legal immigrants.
Right.
And it's interesting. I'm enrolled with the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. My father was actually the first American to fly a jet. What most people don't realize is that the Choctaw Nation, when they were removed to Oklahoma, they set up shop in Oklahoma, and the Choctaw Light Horsemen were the first border guards with Mexico, because the Choctaw Nation's border was Texas along the Red River. But at that time, in the 1830s, Texas was still part of Mexico. Right. And so for a period of time, the Choctaw Light Horsemen, part of their job was to patrol what was then the Mexican border between the Indian Territory and Mexico. And actually, interestingly enough, I have a black leather duster. Some people, tease me about it a little bit. A black leather duster was standard issue for the Choctaw Light Horsemen.
Wow.
So, but most people, one of the things I've been doing, the main thing I've been doing, and I make sure, folks in DC see this, is providing firsthand accurate information here. Because one of the challenges that we have on our side, the left can get away with saying whatever they want. They can lie, they can make stuff up, and nobody ever calls them on it. If we make a math error, they say that we somehow are defrauding everything. So I make sure everything I do is double and triple checked. Rather than saying what the border is, I've got area. If you go on my Facebook page or go on my Twitter page, I actually have an aerial tour of the border. I call it 180 miles in 140 seconds. Because New Mexico has the most unprotected border of any of the 4 border states.
And that's a point we're trying to make.
It's 179 miles from Monument 1 over here all the way out to the Arizona border. We just added an extra 20 miles of primary barrier. Before that, we only had 14 miles of primary barrier. Now we have 34 miles, which is still only 19% of the border. Right. Now we have another 81 miles of vehicle barrier that even old guys like you and I could hop over.
Yeah.
And that's where and I've got night vision video of migrants hopping over at Antelope Wells, 200, 300 at a time, and then the rest is just barbed wire fence.
Yep.
Or sometimes even nothing. So here, where we are at Apata, across from Sunland Park, the wall ends. And it literally, I could walk across Mexico and not be impeded in the slightest. There's no fence, there's no wall, there's no nothing. There's not even a pile of rocks.
And this is the problem we're running into with the Patriots being here on the border here. They're coming through and just giving themselves up to us.
Yeah, and because they know the drill, they know the game. Because the asylum system is broken and so obviously is susceptible to fraud.
Right.
They game the system. And they get free entry to the United States, which is all they want. And, you're claiming asylum. Oh, okay, well, here, sometimes we'll put an ankle monitor on you. I wonder how long, I wonder how much we spend on those ankle monitors, and I wonder how long they last. Again, if you drag a child with you, boom, you've gamed the system. It's 2.5 years, and that's enough time to produce another anchor baby if you want to, just in case your asylum fraud scheme fails. So we have a totally broken system here. And you would be amazed because I spent time in D.C. shadowing Xochitl Torres Small, who's our newly elected congresswoman. The woman that we're working to try and defeat next time around. But you'd be amazed at how many border experts there are up in D.C. that have never set foot on any portion of unprotected border.
They have no clue.
Oh, even our governor will come down, but she won't come to where y'all are here at Anapata. She'll go over to Sunland Park, where, guess what? We just finished building the wall. And the thing is, we know how much the wall costs here in New Mexico. We just spent, for that 20-mile section that we just built, the average cost of the primary barrier is about $2 million a mile, which is comparable to what Israel spent per mile on its southern border. And by the way, Israel's southern border wall was 99.7% effective in eliminating illegal migrants.
Wow.
So we'll see how loud this train's going to be. Oh, they're on the far track. They're okay.
Yeah.
But again, we've got but we have 179 miles. Again, 34 miles of primary barrier. So we need another 145 miles of primary barrier at $2 million a mile. That is only $290 million, and I say only because there's more than $400 million already in the drug confiscation fund that we could use right now without even declaring the presidential national emergency. Now, I support the president's declaration of a national emergency. I think he has authority to do that. I mean, Congress, I'm a strict constitutionalist. Congress has the constitutional authority to appropriate money, but Congress also has the ability to delegate that authority, as they did in the National Emergencies Act of 1976. The president followed that law, but at the same point, there's also pots of money he doesn't even need an emergency declaration to use. But basically, we could use the drug confiscation money that we have sitting in cash right now and finish building the wall and the primary barrier, and that would support the entire process here of making sure that people are funneled to the ports of entry and they go through the process legally. And children won't die. Women will not be raped, and their daughters will not be raped on the journey. 1/3 of all women and young girls are raped on these journeys. If you go out in the boot heel, you'll see what they call rape trees, where the coyotes, because this is all about power and domination. You will see these trees where they tie the women up, rape them, and then leave their undergarments strewn around the tree. I mean, it is heartrending. It is sickening. It is disgusting. And then, and even with this catch and release process, sometimes, you don't necessarily, the people who are being released, the sponsors, sometimes those sponsors are MS-13 gang members that are on the receiving end of the cartel smuggling operations, and those little girls end up as sex slaves.
That's exactly it.
So, I mean, the system is totally broken, and Chuck and Nancy, they have no idea what they're talking about. My wife refers to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as un pedo mental caminando, which is Spanish for walking brain fart.
People kept saying that earlier on the
pedo mental caminando.
You mentioned that before, then, right? Because they kept mentioning that walking brain fart that they kept saying.
Yep. And she refers to our governor as pedito mental caminando because she's a lot shorter. But anyways, happy to answer any questions you have. Again, all of my work is as a volunteer, just like y'all. And again, I cannot thank you enough because you guys are. I mean, I'm sitting behind my keyboard sometimes editing videos, and y'all are out here sleeping out in the middle of nowhere. And probably not getting much sleep, at night because that's when all the activity happens. So y'all are working a heck of a lot harder than I am. I'm just because I'm a school teacher by training. I'm able to communicate a message, and part of what we're trying to do is educate.
That's just it. And one of the things here, you see where we are, and you know what's going on down here, and with these, with the way that the Border Patrol is working with us is great. However, the American people don't realize that this is really happening down here.
Absolutely.
They don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe the things that we're seeing and showing on video now.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing, you're here, you see what we're doing.
Yeah, and we're here. I was out here a couple weeks ago. I think that may have been before y'all showed up, or maybe not off time. And literally, I mean, the Border Patrol, they had a helicopter. They had literally somebody's crossing right. It just happens all the time. So yes, people say, well, gee, all they need is a tall ladder. But part of the process is no wall by itself is sufficient. The wall is necessary, but not sufficient by yourself. What you need also is the high-tech monitoring equipment. And at Border Patrol here, they've got the motion sensors and the vibration detectors, but they also need eyes and they also need visual things. So right now, because our governor won't provide National Guard to do eyes on the border, y'all are the eyes on the border. But again, it's common. It's a multi-layered approach. It's got to be a physical barrier. It's got to be high-tech monitoring equipment, and then it's the human capital, the brave men and women of CBP. The CBP covers the points of entry or the border between the ports of entry, and the DHS Field Ops covers the actual port of entry itself.
Yep. And the one thing that we're here to protect this border, and we're here to stop anything from happening, trying to keep the American.
We dropped you, Johnny.
We lost him.
All right, we're back on. Sorry, I just had to switch fingers.
If they come through here, these other groups is coming through. This armed group that's down in this town right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is an armed group coming here to hurt us.
Well, and people think that these are people just coming to work. No, there are some people that are coming to do us harm.
We have a number.
And the other thing is, illegal immigrant crime is a real deal. Yeah. My Navy career was cut short because I had a head-on collision with a drunk driving illegal alien.
Yeah.
But I survived. My best friend in Las Cruces, he's a Navy SEAL. His younger brother was an Army Ranger, and he was killed by an illegal alien who had been deported 4 times.
Okay, same thing with Doc Robinson and Nuclear Warrior here. They are Angel Mom and Dad.
Right. Well, and my son was in a hit-and-run accident on his bicycle.
Wow.
Now he's recovered from his injuries, and hey, buddy, if you're listening, again, we got about 2 weeks until we find out where you're going to college. So he's a senior in high school, and he's excited. But again, the illegal alien crime is a big issue. The DEA says that New Mexico is ground zero for drug smuggling. We have asylum fraud happening every single day, all up and down the border.
Got dropped again, fellas.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead. You're talking about.
Yeah. So we have people. We had a ranch hand get kidnapped out in the boot heel. We have people that are they accidentally walk into a group of drug cartel people and they die. I mean, somebody was telling me one of your people got killed down in Hidalgo County.
A little over a month ago.
And again, so we've got serious issues here. And again, we're not anti-immigrant. We want the president said, and one of the people need to pay attention to what the president said yesterday at CPAC. Fortunately, I was about 6 rows away from the president. It was an awesome speech. It went on for 2.5 hours. It's like the line for the bathroom got really long afterwards. Nobody wanted to leave because he was on fire. But one of the things he talked about was, he spent a lot of time talking about the border. But he said we want immigrants, but we want immigrants who are coming here that love America and that will do good things for America and that will contribute to the American economy and not show up as drug dealers and not show up, for public assistance and for in places where even roofers. I mean, roofing the dead heat of the summer is an awful job. But there are people willing to do it. It's not a bunch of high school kids, and so so the president talked about it. And again, some people are worried about that. But we have plenty of people that come here that should be able to come here as guest workers and then go home. Send the money back home. It would be a phenomenally better foreign aid program than we have now.
I agree 100%. Here's the deal, folks. Gavin is here. He sees what we need, and he can tell you, do we need more people on the border here with us?
Absolutely. Any of the people that are following me on Facebook, I just finished helping do some logistical support for the Cowboys for Trump on their ride for D.C. I'm going to get with, and I know the Cowboys for Trump was at CPAC, Bikers for Trump was at CPAC. I know you've been in touch with some of those folks, but we need to have as many volunteers as we can here. Again, you're not, we've got the people who are the trained, the people, the military veterans that actually are wearing badges that are working out with patrol to do apprehensions. But if you could sit here with binoculars, night vision scope, you can help keep the border safe, and they'll provide you all the training you need. But I look at these guys, and they look like some of my students. They're dozing off right now. But no, I'm teasing you. You get a nap. You need it. God bless you for what you're doing down here. But these guys, because our government to help secure the border and provide back to Customs Border Protection, we're having to do it with volunteers and these brave women. And again, some of the women out there, these women are tough. They're no joke. And again, but you don't have to be a former military. It's good if you're a former military, but if you've got any sort of law enforcement training, or just if you're a disciplined person and willing to follow instructions from somebody who knows a heck of a lot more than you, come on down. And I'll try and make sure I post the information about how to get in touch with these folks, because we need to get more support for our Customs and Border Protection, because our governor, as my wife refers to her as the pedita or pedito mental caminando, because she's a little shorter than AOC. But since she'll come down to Santa Teresa at the port of entry and say, "Oh, there's no crisis." She had like a Jim Acosta moment, where she's walking along the wall where there's no crisis. It's like, well, come here and sit for come over to Monument 1 for a little bit. Come over here and sit for a little bit, and you will see we have a crisis on the border. Come see it first. Chuck and Nancy, when I was on Fox News, I told you, I'll take you out of my pickup truck and I will show you where the crisis points are. Haven't heard from you yet, Chuck and Nancy, so come on down.
Well, I'll tell you what, Kevin, I really appreciate you being here. The support you're giving us is phenomenal.
Well, I'm glad to do it. Yeah. I mean, y'all are doing the Lord's work down here. And again, this is a dangerous situation for everybody involved, because if you have people dragging children across the desert, some of the children are going to die. Yep. And you don't hear the people up here in Washington D.C. complaining about they don't cry for the children that die. They only cry for them. It's like Hezbollah, and the terrorists that send the women and children first, because they use them as human shields for the cause.
That's what they're doing here.
And so what the cartel wants is more dead children, but they want them to die just as they come over here, because then but again, please, if you have any family, or if you know anybody that's in Central America that's thinking of doing it, please tell them, leave the kids home. It's not a safe journey. It is, dragging children to Antelope Wells is a bad idea every day of the week and twice on the weekends.
Well, I'll tell you what, sir, I want to thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
And anybody out there have any questions for Gavin? It's an honor to have him here.
And I'll be back. I'll make sure. Again, I live in Las Cruces, but and I'm shuttling back and forth to DC and Las Cruces, so we'll be back here again next week.
Right, and we're here. We are here. We did have support come in from Arizona,
and I'm trying to connect y'all up with the Oath Keepers, because they're right now are in Eagle Pass today.
Okay.
So that to their leadership, and they definitely want to connect with y'all, and make sure that we can have a network of volunteers to cover the border from Brownsville all the way to San Diego.
Well, what we're looking at is we want to make a human wall of patriots ready to defend this country no matter what happens.
Absolutely. God bless you, and God bless you the work y'all are doing. Thank you so much for keeping us safe.
Okay. Nuclear Warrior, any of you have any questions for Dr. Gavin?
Yeah. Any chance he could stop by Grisham's office and slap some sense into her?
Well, the Cowboys for Trump are riding on Santa Fe on the 12th. So the three things the Cowboys. I mean, obviously, right down here we're talking focus on the border, but the Cowboys for Trump ride on DC was all about defending life. It's about defending the rights, our Second Amendment rights to be able to protect our families. And I see a whole bunch of gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen here exercising their Second Amendment right here, and necessarily so. It's also New Mexico is the late term capital of the Western Hemisphere, and so we're riding to defend the unborn. But the other thing we do, the border is a life and death issue. And we want to be able to protect our families, particularly those that are coming from the Boot Heel area where their families are injured every day. But it's also, we want to protect the children from being dragged across that dangerous journey. And we want to defend the lives of the brave men and women of Customs and Border Protection and DHS and ICE and all those people that work to protect us across our southern border. And, and I'm happy to add y'all to that list of groups that we want to protect. We want to make sure y'all are safe too. We want to make sure that, so the main thing is if you're going to become involved in one of these groups, they're not looking for people to come down here and be Rambo. This is not, this is not come down here. I mean, y'all are kind enough to put me on the radio, put me on camera, but this is not about me. So if when you come down here, leave your ego at home. This is not a field trip. This is not, there's no Starbucks here.
This is a war zone.
Yeah, you have to get your last sip of latte before you head down here, because these guys. This is hard work. This is rough time. These are long nights because the bulk of the migrants are crossing between midnight and 6 in the morning.
Yep.
So I mean, don't plan if you're coming down here. Make sure you get a lot of sleep before you come down here, because you will not get much sleep down here because the activity happens at night. You need to make sure, if you want to, bring an eye mask so that you can try and sleep during the day, catch some shut eye, because it's a real deal. But leave your ego at home. Make sure you're ready to follow orders, because you'll be surprised how much your life may depend on your ability to follow the rules and follow the instructions. Last thing we need is a patriot coming down here and getting killed. It's already happened once. Probably happened more than once. Yep. Yeah. And we don't need, so we need people here. The goal is not, we don't want to do apprehensions, but you have to. What you want to be able to do, the best line of defense right now is a good pair of eyeballs and a radio.
That's true. Yeah, I'll tell you what, my two field officers here who are in charge, they are both former military, Green Beret, and they are strict with protocol. If you come down here, if you can't follow orders to the T, because we work directly with Border Patrol. I mean, hand in hand. We give them intel, they give us intel. They tell us something's going on, we tell them something's going on. And the job they're doing is hard. They're up around the clock. Yesterday, all day long, they were apprehending people. Then last night was actually a quiet night, the first one we've had since we've been here. But they've already started today. They're coming across in small groups. They're giving themselves up. We haven't been in any danger yet, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. We have things that are going on. So anybody else have any questions? Okay. Well,
yes, sir, Commander. I have a question real quick. Are we still having a radio show tonight at 7?
Yeah, we can still have the radio show tonight at 7 if Pete's in agreement with it. So we do plan on having another emergency show tonight, because tomorrow we have a situation that could be happening here. I don't want to scare anybody, but we were told that we have numerous from down Mexico City.
The cartel. I mean, so they've stopped. Sometimes the journey they don't have if you pay enough to a Coyote, they'll give you a bus ride, and the bus ride will stop. A couple miles of the border. You finish the last few miles on foot. But right here where we are, Nápoles, Mexico, which is one of the little colonias, this part of Ciudad Juarez, is literally, well, my arms get a little old. I probably can't chuck a rock that far. I used to be able to.
I started saying you can chuck a rock.
But basically, they just drop on the other side. They walk through Nápoles, and they all get up, and then they just make a big rush, and they push at different points. And again, where we are, the wall covers parts of it, and then it's a bunch of nothing. And it's just, it's amazing how totally unprotected we are, this close to Sunland Park, to Santa Teresa on the New Mexico side, and then El Paso on the other side. I mean, all of El Paso itself has the wall, but as soon as you get to the New Mexico side, there ain't no wall, there ain't no fence, there's not even a pile of rocks,
and that's where we're at. So, with what is going on here, like I said, Border Patrol is working hand in hand with us 100%. I've never worked with the Border Patrol to where they were more helpful ever than what. So with that, do you want to close the show, Preacher, or Nuclear Warrior?
Okay, Commander. I'd like to thank the ladies and gentlemen who made it in here to listen to the live emergency broadcast. Thanks for your support. Thanks for your donations, which are greatly appreciated and still quite necessary if you can do it. And with that, I'm going to sign off here, and we'll see you later on this evening, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Central, for another emergency broadcast. So, Preacher, if you'd care to close with a prayer.
All right, sir. Lord Jesus, once again we come before you to thank you, Lord, for allowing us to be a part of this operation and allowing us to be here to do this work of salvaging this great nation. We ask you, Lord, once again to continue to be with and watch over those men on the border right now that are standing guard over that border and standing guard over this country. We pray for our men and women under arms who are standing guard wherever they're at. We ask you to be with them, watch over them, keep them safe. We thank you for our listeners that have come here to hear this emergency broadcast. They're here each and every time, and they do everything they can to support us. We ask you to bless them. We ask you, Lord, to continue to move on hearts, that men will see the urgency of the situation and see that we are, in fact, telling the truth, and they will move toward that border to help those that are already down there. And we ask you to move on hearts and continue to keep the donations coming in that help so much with taking care of those men while they're down there. We ask you to continue with us now throughout this day and into the coming days. Continue to guide us, guard us, and direct us. Draw us ever closer to one another, ever closer to thee. We do ask it in Jesus' holy name. Amen and amen.
Amen. Okay, Commander, if you've got nothing further, I'll have our engineer shut down the program, and we'll get on with the business.
Okay, we will wait.
We'd like to thank the people joining the United Constitutional Patriots Radio for our emergency broadcast.
Okay, hang on just a minute.
Okay, we'll wait.
Are we closing the show? Okay, one more time. I'd like to thank all the people for joining the United Constitutional Patriots Radio Show for our emergency broadcast. We will be back on the air tonight around 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Pacific, if that's right, I hope. But I would check an hour earlier just in case. You all have a great day, and God bless every patriot here listening to our stream. And
okay,
thank you.
Now I'm here. Hello, everybody.
Okay, all clear now.
Okay.
You guys were talking when I was trying to close the show.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It's all right, John.
Okay. This gentleman was with Trump yesterday. Trump sent his wishes. He personally requested that we do a show with him. Trump wanted him to do a show with him. That's why I called it early. I didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't know he was going to be here. He flew in. Here in about 2 hours, he's got to fly back out. He did it to give us recognition that he understands exactly where we're at and what we're doing. So, Mr. Clarkson, again, thank you so much